started when I was in first grade. When I was 6 years old, I met my best friend at the time. Her name was Ada Young. Her name still is Ada Young, but at the time, she was my true best friend that I met in the first grade. And it turns out she had moved from China when she was in kindergarten, learned the language just completely natively within the year. And I was really her first American friend. And so I went back to her home and met her parents. And her parents were really actively learning English. And I was so excited. I had never seen someone who was especially an adult who was not yet fluent in English, but really trying and learning. And I got so interested in their language journey and hearing their original language, which was Cantonese, trying to imitate the Cantonese and also actively trying to help, especially her mom, pronounce English. And I noticed that she was very shy originally to pronounce English around native English speakers. And I was I'm a tiny little person now at turning 43 this month. But at 6 years old, I was really not intimidating at all. So I would sit with her mom, listen to her English, look at the way her mouth moved, and try to show her with my 6-year-old mouth how to form certain sounds. We would have like markers and paper, and I would write out sort of in my 6-year-old phonetics how to pronounce certain words, because English spelling is often misleading. And so I just got such an enjoyment out of trying to make her mom feel better about her English, especially because her two children made fun of her all the time since they learned English as kids within a year or so, and were just completely native and couldn't understand, okay, well, we learned it, why can't you guys, parents? So I just would get such a joy out of trying to demystify the sounds of English and make her feel more confident about the words she was saying. And then as a treat, they would give me little Post-its with Cantonese phrases on them, and I would try to repeat. So this exact time of my life is when I got so interested in teaching language and learning language. It was like 2 in 1. It was like the biggest gift I could get. So that was me at age 6. We wound up moving away, and I spent some summers at Ada's house, and she spent some summers at my house. But when I was at her house, I would come back with my Cantonese Post-its that I'd memorized. It was the 80s. I got books with the audio tapes to try to teach myself additional Cantonese phrases. And it was like my hobby to try learning things and then presenting them with my new phrases each summer. So that was where it started. And I took Spanish in middle school and high school. I have to say it was not very inspiring. My teachers often didn't speak Spanish natively. No, none of them spoke Spanish natively. Most of them weren't very fluent. And the textbook kind of, I don't know, it was mostly grammar focused and filling in the blanks. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel the same amount of joy and passion behind it that I did with trying to teach myself Cantonese. But then fast forward to college, I wound up entering Georgetown as a linguistics major, which was kind of on a lark. My mom said, "Oh, that major's different languages. You'd really like it." So I kind of checked it off thinking, I don't know if I'll go to this college anyway. And I thought it was my interest area. Somehow I came in as a declared major, loved this major, wound up minoring in Spanish, wound up studying abroad in Spain for 2 semesters, loved it so much that I came back as a double major. And when I was abroad and living in Salamanca for the 2 semesters, that was, again, another falling in love with language. So love learning Spanish. And another piece of the inspiration happened here. So there was a student who was in the school major. It was like the equivalent of an English major. And she said that she was taking the final exam her 7th time for senior year to graduate. So she was a senior, but like a super times 6 senior, and had failed that test and was going to leave without the degree if she didn't get it on this now 7th try. Yeah. And I asked her, what's going to be on the test? I don't have a copy of the test. Okay, is there a review book? No, it's like the professor's test. They keep it locked up. So I sat with her in a cafe maybe 3 times, maybe for 2 hours, chatting and trying to determine, okay, what do I think is on this test, and which of those parts is she losing points on? And I determined speaking, pronunciation, and when she heard words, writing them down and doing a dictation. And within 3 sessions, I really tried to sort of give her mock versions of tests just coming out of my head of what I thought would demonstrate these skills. And she took the test. Time went by. The school year ended. I went home and I got a letter in the mail with about thank you with 18 exclamation points. She passed her test. She got her degree. So between this 6-year-old listening to Cantonese and trying to help someone learn as a beginner, and this sort of 20-year-old trying to help a super senior finally get her English degree and leave her university with pride and proof that she mastered English. Those two things together just made me think, okay, this is my career. This is not just a hobby. This is, if I could do this and even even if I don't get paid for it, if I can do this, I will be happy. If I can get paid for it, even better. So that, I'd say those two things just launched me into teaching English and also into just a continual life of language learning. So that was a very long-winded answer, but be careful what you ask for, I guess.
I love it. No, I love the backstory because it really just solidifies that passion you have to help people and how much it's stirred in you for your entire life, it sounds like, which is just wonderful. And you also, so being a dialect coach, what does that entail versus the English side of it? The accent reduction is one side, and then the dialect is different. And this applies to people that want to speak with an accent. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, everyone has an accent. You can call your own personal accent your idiolect. It's like a personal dialect that only you have. So figure everyone has an accent with their own idiosyncrasies. But if you think about accents and dialects and say, oh, I have no accent, or you have an accent, I have an accent, it's like an accent that has a regional basis. Like you can hear certain features and think, oh, you're from somewhere around here. So usually, in layman's terms, if you say, oh, I have an accent or I don't have an accent, it's your having or not having these traits that make you sound like you're from a specific region. And if no one can tell exactly where you're from, you feel like you have no accent. So just to kind of give it a definition, we'll say that everyone has an accent, but the one that's used in the media and the one that sort of is, the sort of dominant sound in business tends to be sort of the standard accent of that region. Some places like England may have a specifically standardized accent that's written down in textbooks and documented as a certain way, but the United States is not so much like that. So a little bit of, England being a little different than the US, but let's just stick with the US for a moment. So in the United States, there's a sort of neutral-ish accent that tends to be heard more in the media and in the business world. So we can call that Standard American English, SAE, or General American English, GAE. They're not the best terms, but they're the terms that kind of get the job done for the most part. The accent that won't pinpoint you to a specific region. So when it's sort of the case of what is accent reduction versus dialect coaching, they're the same type of thing in theory. It's bringing a person from accent X to accent Y. In accent reduction, accent Y, the goal is standard American English in this case, right? So the people that are coming to me for accent reduction, they want to end up sounding this standard, neutral, I can't tell exactly what region you're from, but you're from the US. That tends to be accent reduction. What is the accent they're coming from? It could be an accent from a non-native speaker that wants to say, I don't want to be pegged as a non-native speaker. I want to sound like a native. My grammar is perfect. I write really well, and it just keeps getting in my way. So accent reduction can be a non-native speaker, or it could be a speaker of a specific regional dialect. My whole family, most of us are from Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn, but raised in Staten Island. That's another sort of twist on the typical New York accent. And then I went to Long Island. That's another version. So I have tons of accents that I've grown up with as well. But for business, I try to pick something that's kind of easy to understand and doesn't have as much regional I'd say regional flair as when maybe I'm just hanging out with the family and, relaxing with friends. So in the accent reduction, whether it's regional or an international, we're trying to speak standard American English for whatever that term, could be used for. With dialect coaching, it's that the accent Y is something else typically, maybe not the standard. So maybe someone does want to sound like they're from Brooklyn because they're on a, New York-based cop show, or maybe they want to sound like they're a surfer or Southern or from another country. Maybe they want to sound, like they're from England or Ireland or something more specific than that even. So the difference between accent reduction and dialect coaching is basically, where do you want to end up? In accent reduction, you want to sound like the standard from probably the country of the coach that you're choosing to
Yeah.
work with. And in
Yeah.
dialect coaching, you want some specific accent. And usually the dialect coaching is used by actors, because the actors are the folks that have a reason to want to sound like they're from a specific dialect that is not their own and be really convincing and authentic.
Yeah.
And accent reduction could be actors that just want to sound like they're from the place where they're auditioning, or it could be predominantly business people, public figures, folks that just want to take some of the stigma, unfortunately, that exists, or distraction out of their speech and just get their message across. I will just make one note. Accent reduction is kind of an unfortunate name. It sounds like you're taking something away. Some people
Right.
call it accent modification, which I think is a
Mm.
little bit of a kinder term. You're modifying something. You're not making it better or worse or taking away. You're just learning another style of
Mhm.
accent. Accent elimination sounds really harsh. I
Yeah.
don't like the word neutralization. That doesn't sound like it should be in this category. But
Right.
I like to call it, clear, confident English. You're ending up with a clear English. You feel confident about it. And
Yeah.
that's how I like to describe it. But if you're Googling it, accent reduction is the one that usually wins out. So I call it accent reduction just to make sure that I catch the most people with understanding what I'm talking about. But yes, they're the same style of modifying accent X to get to accent Y, but the goal is usually different, and it's the actors that usually want the dialect coaching to pick something, different than their original accent, and probably something that's not standard. So there's
Gotcha.
your long-winded answer. But the concept of how to work with the client and
Yeah.
listen to the speech and modify it is the same. And with the dialect coaching client, usually they have a script and they say, hey, I want to say these lines with this
Oh,
accent. So it's a
yeah.
finite world. You can mark up the
Okay.
script. You can,
Uh-huh.
get a native speaker of that dialect to do that script. You can do all sorts of things to prepare those words to the nth degree. But accent reduction is usually something people would use in their daily speech or for extemporaneous, speech and content. So it's a difference in scope as well.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Wow, that's fantastic. Is there more or less, or do you get a balance of this, or is it just kind of just depend on the need?
It depends on the need. I'd say my clients that take accent reduction style coaching from me are usually looking for long-term changes. They want to have this as their go-to accent in business, sometimes in socializing, and it tends to be a longer-term engagement. Accent
Uh-huh.
reduction might be someone booking one session for an audition where they get the part and then they book a couple before they, film or they do their play. So it's typically accent reduction that dominates my schedule
Mhm.
because it's more long term, but it doesn't take away from how fun it is to do some dialect coaching. But it tends to come in spurts instead of the long term marathon that is accent reduction.
That makes sense. I've got a question. What is the most languages that someone has come to you that they already know that
Oh,
needs accent reduction?
that's a great question. I will say that some some of my clients that live in smaller European countries may speak 5 or 6 languages fairly fluently. Like for example, if you're from Belgium, you probably speak some sort of Flemish or Walloon plus French, German, and English, and then you probably learn the fifth one for fun in school, like Italian or something like that, or Spanish. So you may have like 4 languages native or almost native fluency in. Then you've got the one that you learned in school for fun, and now you're just going back to perfect your English because you may have a slight accent or you're living and working in the US now, or maybe you've got the British style and now you want the American style. So I'd say it's not so uncommon to have 5 or 6. I have clients from Africa that also speak a lot of different
Right.
languages. And so I would say, small countries in Europe and some of my clients from Africa tend to have more languages under their belt. And it's not that unusual to have 5 languages where many of them are like just completely native as far as their level. And I'm totally jealous. I'm not even going to hide it. But
Right.
there were no dual language schools when I was a kid. My mom tried to
Yeah.
see if there was like a Cantonese camp join
Yeah.
for folks who would, learn from scratch. And, there was no Mango Languages app that I love. It's my favorite language learning app, or even the other, there are plenty of language learning apps you can get, some for free and some not. And those didn't exist. So
Right.
I was not able to get myself a large amount of exposure to world languages when I was growing up. And I am
Wow.
completely jealous, and I can't go back in time. If I could, I would just go immerse myself and travel or whatever I could do. But
Yeah.
I didn't
Amazing.
have the means as a kid to make that happen. And unfortunately, now all of the languages I learn will be as a second language. And second doesn't mean it's your second in sequence. It just means I am an adult. I've gone through the critical period of fossilization of my brain, when usually sometime around puberty your brain changes, just to be the broad strokes of it. And when you learn a language, it's no longer a native language. And so all the languages I will learn are as second languages, but I can try my best. And my secret weapon in learning languages is I have absolutely no shame. I will make mistakes. I will try. I will embarrass myself. I will do it loudly and proudly. And I will just ask the mercy of my audience to correct me and guide me in the right direction. But I have no shame. That is there is something called the affective filter that usually, when a speaker is learning a language that isn't, languages that aren't their own, they tend to clam up and not try, or have
Yeah.
this sort of veil of insecureness around them. I somehow miss that filter. And so as much as I don't have the languages as native, I will
Yeah.
just I will just put my mistakes right out there with a smile and see, hopefully no one gets offended. Like I haven't said anything. I haven't accidentally said anything offensive, but people are kind a lot of the time, and they will help you along your way. So that's my secret weapon. So I hope that spreads. I hope it's infectious. If you're trying English out or another language, just go for it and just find a helpful audience, hopefully.
That's great advice. I think that's great advice. That's the only way you are going to learn, right? In a good approach. Well, our audience is Yolanda had a great question. She said, for accent reduction, does the accent of the coach matter? That's a great question.
That is a wonderful question. So I would say it doesn't necessarily matter if the coach's native accent is the one you want, but the coach needs to be able to model the accent you want. So, for example, if I have my guard down, I will show my New York accent, or maybe on purpose. It has a lot of good, right? If you're arguing or trying to be aggressive, it has a great great usage, great use
Yeah.
case for the New York accent. But
Yeah.
when I'm coaching, I speak with a very neutral business accent. So as long as your coach can do the accent, that would be a good coach. The coach should be able to speak fluently in the accent. For dialect coaching, you may find an accent that your coach doesn't speak yet, but they could find native speakers, files, audio, video, and make themselves the conduit so you can get to that language. So for dialect coaching, it does not need to be their native. For accent reduction, that coach should be extremely fluent and native-like, even if it's not their first dialect. They should be able to effortlessly, continuously model the accent you want. So I have clients that say, hey, can you help me with dialect coaching for someone in X place in England? Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you're looking for. I can even find, again, videos and models of the exact accent we want, and then I can model that for you and we can do it. But if someone said, hey, I want to work in England and I want to sound exactly like my colleagues and I want accent reduction and I want you to give me accent reduction and end up with British English, I might be a little hesitant because I don't live and work in England. I don't know the office lingo. I may have assumptions based on
Right.
dialects that I can do of what it would sound like, and it would be fine for a film role, but it may not be the best choice for an accent reduction coach if you want to sort of walk amongst the folks and be sort of undetected as someone who did. You want to spend time with a coach that fluently speaks that accent in a very natural way. So I would say for a dialect coach, you can pick someone who can do any dialect. But for accent reduction, you want someone who is super, super comfortable and in their sleep knows everything about that accent. So you can end up speaking, modeling yourself off of them, because you'll be hearing their voice quite a lot. You're not going to be able to say, hey, let's look at these videos to find the proper accent for the accent reduction. It's a long-term thing that coach should have that accent under their belt in a very, very natural way, and that you should be speaking in that accent the entire time. So I would say it's a great question, and dialect coaching doesn't matter. Accent reduction sort of matters, at least that the person, well, it definitely matters that the person is so fluent and so comfortable in it. It doesn't matter as much as if it's their native dialect. And again, like me, I grew up with an accent. I'm hyper aware of little nuances. So it makes me, I think, a better coach that I didn't grow up necessarily hearing from day one standard American English, but
Right.
that I live and work in it every day. So I have sort of a dual citizenship with my accent. But again, I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't think that I would be the best choice to do accent reduction with someone who wants to end up sounding like they, are in, I don't know, somewhere outside of London. It would be more of a stage or film accent that I would coach that for.
That's amazing. These are some great questions today. I love
Yeah,
it. I
really
love
good.
it. We've got let's say hi to some people. Hi, William, Yolanda. Always hear great questions. Dan Goodwin from Kansas City. Dion Myers Vince. He said, still difficult kicking my Bronx accent.
Keep
That's
it. Yeah. You don't have to get rid of it. What I tell
yeah.
people is, don't think of getting rid of your original accent. Think of it as learning a new accent. Like, for example, now this analogy might be out of date, but I always used to say, think of it as putting on a business suit, right? When you're home, you're relaxing in your comfy pants, you go to work and you put on some kind of suit. Now maybe you just get a little bit tidy from the waist up, and you're on Zoom and you look presentable, but you've got your comfy pants on. So that's a bit of a I want to have a disclaimer on the business attire because Zoom has changed everything. But what I
Right.
will say is, think about it as having a new accent that you can use whenever you want. So if you want to have your business casual or you want to have your super comfy, you can
Yeah.
choose which one you want, and at your disposal you can pick, and that it will be a tool for you, not a constrictive straitjacket for you. You want accent A, great, I'm comfortable in that. You want accent B, okay, I'll put on that outfit, and as long as I'm embodying this persona, I'm going to have this accent. But that you can be in control. The accent won't control you. You pick and choose. So keep your Bronx accent, and if you want to learn an additional, extra businessy American accent, go for it. But there are definite uses for a Bronx accent. If you're arguing with someone, in a store over, I don't know. I'm picking store. I was going to say over breakfast, but
Sure.
well, I'm thinking of having a argument over ordering breakfast, but yeah, definitely there are good uses for the nice aggressive sound of lots of different New York-based dialects.
Yeah,
New York
that's gonna win.
City-based dialects, I should say.
Right, right. That'll probably win the argument over the Southern accent, that's for sure.
Just packs an extra punch.
Yes, yes, it does, for sure. Oh, man, that's awesome. Katie said, "Hi, and you 2 know each other?" Question mark. Of course, Katie, we know everybody. So I think first introduction was from Joe Applebaum, and then we're in the Erudites together, and we know a
Yeah.
lot of people that know people and,
Yeah,
people.
and we realize we must know about 40 people in common, even
I think
outside that
so.
circle. So we
Yeah.
were destined to meet. It was
Yes.
happening whether we wanted to or not, but we did.
Yes. We did, we did.
Yeah,
It was intentional. Yes, yes. Yeah, because our first time we're like, "Oh, no, no, no." I, definitely hit it off well, but, nobody's gonna be on this if that we're not hitting it off well and, can, kinda get through it and laugh and have a good time, you know?
exactly. To have me stare at those pancakes that I can't eat right now, I must be doing something I enjoy, or I'd be looking for those pancakes.
Yeah, that's that's a winner, I will tell you. That's, the pancakes, but,
I'll tell you,
here
I didn't think I was a pancake person, but then
yeah.
I believe it's at Friedman's. There was lemon regot pancakes, really very tasty. I like lemon, and I sort of hadn't had pancakes in a while, but those are fluffy. There's like lemon, I don't know, zest or something. There's, regot on them, however you pronounce it, ricotta. But yes, they are quite a nice way to start the day. So I would say when I look at those pancakes, I'm having a flashback to a breakfast I ate at least twice at Friedman. So this
Nice.
is not a plug for Friedman's, but I guess it was a free plug for Friedman's. This is not their advertising space. And
Right.
coffee, I don't drink coffee, so the coffee's not tempting, but I do like the little coffee latte art in there.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing I can do. I can't actually make that, but, it's fun. It's definitely fun. You also have a husband that he does something special too. Will you tell on him to us?
Well, besides being a good cook, he is an actor and voiceover artist, and his name is David Davino. That's his stage name. And I kept Fox, so no, I didn't take his stage name when we got married or his real name. So David is, as I said, an actor in film, television, commercial. He used to do a lot of musical theater, and he also does voiceover. And so when he has an audition or a role and it has a dialect, I am very happy to volunteer my services and try to insert my dialect coaching expertise. He also does a lot of work with other coaches who specialize in voiceover coaching. So I'm not a voiceover coach myself, but when it comes to dialects, we get to collaborate a bit, especially when it's a New York dialect. I really get to chase him around the house, just making him say everything in the dialect.
Oh man, that's
So,
fun. That is fun. What a
yes.
neat. Yeah, Jason says that is cool. That's right. Oh, Jason said, do you charge him for that?
I don't, but he makes sure that in the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when he makes any of those meals, he will definitely thank me through his food love. But yeah,
Oh.
I do not charge a fee. But I also, because he is a voiceover artist, has wonderful recording equipment in the house and a whole
Yeah.
closet that has been outfitted to be a voiceover closet. So if I need to record anything, I get his expertise in the recording studio. So we definitely have I guess dueling communication / audio related help to share with each other. And I have to say, anyone who's met us together knows we are both super aggressive talkers. So there is never quiet unless somebody's recording something or
Yeah.
on an important call or meeting. Whenever there's downtime, it is just like a constant flow of talking when we can both be working, but there's
Yeah.
just there is no quiet time, and there are constantly imitations, dialects, whether it's celebrity impressions or whatever it might be.
Oh,
There's just
fun.
a constant buzz. I don't know, cacophony. I don't know if that's the word, but there's a lot of noise in this apartment coming from the source of accents, dialects, voices, and all sorts of fun things. And it is not. We would not make very good librarians. We're not. There's just
How
constant
fun.
stream of talking.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
Very spirited talking too.
That's
The volume.
wonderful.
I don't have a very loud voice. I talk a lot, but I don't naturally have a booming voice. But he does. So between my giggling and his loud voice, I don't know. Luckily, there must be thick walls in these apartments because nobody complains.
No, that is fantastic. That is wonderful. I just love your story and how good, things have traversed through, and you know, just absolutely wonderful. And your passion for helping people, it exudes in every way, no matter what. Even if you're not helping them with their accent, just talking and just being such a good person to
Oh, thank you.
associate with and being connected with. And I thank you so much for taking the time. I think everybody's enjoyed hearing the backstory and how you came about doing this. It's so interesting.
Thank you so much. And my clients are
Yeah.
the best. My clients, when anyone asks me about myself and what makes you good, I always say my clients are kicking ass. They're just kicking ass left and right, taking names, going after what they want, and their accent or dialect is no longer in their way. So it's sort of
Mhm.
like removing an obstacle, and it's now like a magic feather. Their clarity makes them confident. They're confident. Their confidence builds more clarity and snowballs. And my clients kick ass. They're the best. I'm so thankful for them.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I think we'll have to connect again, and
Yes.
you may have to get David on.
And we have to connect over actual
So
pancakes.
funny.
There's
Yes,
gonna be a part two with real pancakes. So
yes, yes, for
anyway, well, thank you
sure, for
so much.
sure.
This was so much fun.
Hey, make sure you put your contact information so anybody that wants to send referrals and get, or get some help themselves and everything. Make sure you put everything in the chat when we're done on our streams so they can connect with you. Because everybody that's come. Thank y'all this morning for our viewers out there. We appreciate you, and make sure if you're not connected, do it right away.
Excellent. And I want to just give a couple shouts if I can. So
Yeah.
if you want to find me, I'll put it in the chat later. My brand is Speech Fox. I am called the Speech Fox. That is my new name instead of Melanie. So you can find me there. I have to give a shout out to Mango Languages. I am a language learning strategist there, and it's the best language learning app around. If your library subscribes, you can get it for free. If you've got an institution like a school or a corporation or a library, talk to me about that. And if you're trying to work on your accent, but you can't yet get to a coach, you might want to try out Bold Voice, which is a new app, and it's really fantastic. So I will just give those shouts, and thank you again for the time.
Perfect. Perfect. Great info. I can't wait to find out about those apps. So those sound fantastic. So thank you, Melanie.
Excellent. Thanks. Kick ass, everyone. Take care.
Take care.